My name is Mark. I'm 32, and I work as a freelance photographer. Tonight, I found myself pulled off the highway by a flickering neon sign, an abandoned gas station that looked like it hadn't seen life in decades. My car had been sputtering for miles, and desperation led me here, hoping for a phone signal or maybe some forgotten fuel. The air is thick with the scent of rust and old gasoline, mingled with damp earth from the surrounding trees. The night is cold, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones, and the only light is the pale glow from a broken street lamp struggling against the darkness. Silence dominates, but it's the kind of silence that feels unnatural. No crickets, no rustling leaves, just a stillness that presses against my ears. The wind is nearly absent, though the branches should be moving, and somewhere distant, a faint hum that I can't place lingers at the edge of my hearing. I glance toward the cracked windows of the station, catching a fleeting reflection that doesn't quite match my movements. It's subtle, but enough to make me pause. There's a weight in the air, like something unseen is watching. I shake off the unease, telling myself it's just the isolation playing tricks. But as I step deeper toward the building, I can't help but wonder if I'm truly alone out here tonight. The hum lingers, low and persistent, like the heartbeat of this forsaken place. I squint through the cracked glass, trying to convince myself it's just the wind playing tricks on the broken windows. But then I notice it, a rusted, dented can lying oddly upright on the cracked pavement, as if someone had placed it there recently. My breath catches. I'm certain I didn't see it before. The night air feels colder now, heavier, pressing against my skin like an unseen weight. A faint scraping sound, metal against concrete, echoes somewhere to my left. I freeze, ears straining. It's not the wind. It's deliberate, slow, and steady. Maybe a branch caught in the breeze? No, the pattern is too rhythmic, too purposeful. My eyes dart around, searching for the source in the shadows cast by the flickering neon sign. The buzzing light sputters, casting fractured shadows that twist and writhe like something alive. I glance behind me. The road stretches empty, swallowed by darkness. No cars, no headlights. But I can't shake the prickling sensation crawling up my spine, the feeling that I'm not alone. Something or someone is watching. My heart pounds against my ribs, each beat louder than the last. I tell myself to focus, to stay rational. Maybe a raccoon scavenging for food, a stray animal disturbed in the night. But then I catch a glimpse of movement, subtle and quick, just beyond the edge of the gas station's canopy. Something's slipping between the shadows, vanishing before I can get a clear look. Without thinking, driven by a mix of dread and curiosity, I reach for the flashlight in my glove compartment. The beam cuts through the darkness, trembling in my grip. I step toward the canopy, toward the place where the shadows swallowed that flicker of movement. The night holds its breath, and so do I. I stepped under the gas station's broken canopy, the beam of my flashlight slicing through the thick darkness. The sound, metal scraping, grew louder, closer, but there was no wind, no logical source. My heart hammered in my chest, sweat trickling down my forehead despite the chill in the air. I told myself it was just an animal, maybe a raccoon or a stray dog trapped inside, but the unease tightening around my throat told me otherwise. Then the ground beneath me seemed to shift. The concrete cracked, or maybe it was my mind fracturing. Hard to tell. Shadows flickered in impossible angles, stretching and twisting like living things. The neon sign above flickered erratically, casting sickly green and red hues that warped the edges of reality until the gas pumps looked like grotesque creatures lurking just out of reach. A low whisper rose from the darkness, barely audible but undeniably there. It wasn't a voice I recognized, more like a chorus of murmurs, urgent and pleading, overlapping in a language I couldn't understand but felt deep in my bones. Panic surged through me, but I couldn't run. It was as if the air thickened, pressing against my lungs. I glanced back toward my car, desperate for normality, for some anchor in this nightmare. But the road behind me seemed to stretch endlessly, twisting into a void where headlights and sound vanished. The familiar world slipped away, replaced by a maze of shifting shadows and distorted space that made my stomach lurch. Then, out of the corner of my eye, movement, a figure materializing from the darkness, impossibly tall and thin, its face obscured but its presence suffocating. I froze, trapped in this collapsing reality, knowing without doubt that I was not alone. Something was here with me, something ancient and wrong. I swallowed hard, fingers trembling around the flashlight, knowing there was no escape. The silence was shattered by a slow, deliberate scraping sound, coming closer, closer. I was trapped, and whatever was coming wasn't done with me yet. The air twists thick around me like it's solid and alive, pressing into my lungs, squeezing out breath I don't have. The walls pulse, breathing with some cruel heartbeat that isn't mine. Shadows stretch and snap like broken wires, their jagged edges scraping against my skin. I stumble forward, but the floor beneath me cracks open, yawning like a hungry mouth swallowing everything I know, everything I am. A sickening vertigo spins me down into a pit where time fractures, shattering into shards of memory and nightmare. Faces flicker in the neon flicker, twisted and grinning, their eyes empty hollows staring right through me. The figure from before, tall, looming, breathes cold into my neck. I try to scream, but the sound dies in a choking rasp. The whispers grow louder, not voices, something older than language, older than sanity. They crawl along my skin, burrowing, twisting my mind until I can't tell if I'm awake or trapped within some endless, waking nightmare. The gas station, the road, the car, they're dissolving, melting into a void that pulls me deeper with a hunger I cannot resist. And then, in a flash of unbearable clarity, I see it. The place is a trap, a cycle. I am both prey and prisoner, caught in a loop where every lost soul becomes part of the darkness, a voice in the endless whisper, a shadow in the twisted walls. I try to run, but my feet sink into the cracked concrete, roots of rust and decay wrapping tight, holding me fast. The neon sign flickers one last time, casting a pale, dead light over my face, a mask of terror frozen forever. The figure smiles, a slow, terrible curve of something not human, not alive. The silence swallows me whole. I'm already gone. The road waits. My name is Daniel. I'm 32, a freelance writer with a penchant for late-night drives when the world feels quiet enough to think. Tonight, my old car sputtered its last breath just as I passed an abandoned gas station deep on this forgotten stretch of highway. The night air is sharp and cold, carrying the faint scent of damp earth and rusted metal. The station's flickering neon sign barely cuts through the thick darkness, casting long, uneven shadows across cracked concrete and overgrown weeds. There's an eerie stillness here. No hum of insects, no distant rumble of traffic, just the occasional drip of water echoing somewhere in the shadows. I step out, the gravel crunching underfoot, and notice the windows reflect the weak glow of the moon, but something in that reflection seems off, like a shape that should have moved but didn't. I tell myself it's just my imagination, the strain of isolation playing tricks, yet there's a subtle weight pressing against the silence, as if I'm not alone. Glancing around, a sudden shiver crawls down my spine, and I realize I'm holding my breath, waiting for something, though I'm not sure what. The silence presses in, thick and suffocating, as I sit behind the cracked steering wheel, the engine long dead. My eyes flick toward the dim outline of the gas station building, its shattered windows catching what little moonlight there is, casting distorted reflections that make the shadows dance unnaturally. A cold draft slips through the cracked door of the car, carrying with it a faint, almost imperceptible smell of something stale, like old smoke and rust. I try to shake off the uneasy feeling curling in my gut, telling myself it's just the isolation playing tricks on me. Yet, when I glance again at the station, something seems wrong. A single gas pump leans awkwardly, as if it's been nudged out of place. Was it like that before? I'm not sure. The silence is interrupted by a soft, irregular tapping, a slow, deliberate rhythm that doesn't belong to the wind or the creaking of the building. It's coming from inside. My heart hammers as I scan the area, but there's no sign of movement, no flicker of light beyond the faint glow of the moon. The shadows seem to stretch longer now, reaching toward me with impossible angles. My breath quickens, and I feel a prickling sensation at the back of my neck, like something unseen is watching, waiting. I force my hand to reach for the door handle, every rational thought drowned by the growing need to know. Slowly, I push the door open, the rusty hinges groaning in protest. The cold air rushes out, carrying the tapping sound louder, closer. Stepping out, I move toward the gas pump, toward the source of the noise, my flashlight trembling in my grip as I prepare to uncover whatever has been lurking just beyond the edge of reason. I gripped the flickering beam of my flashlight tighter and stepped through the cracked glass door. The air inside was colder, heavier, like it swallowed sound whole. The faint dripping from somewhere unseen echoed, but the irregular banging had stopped. I called out, voice barely more than a whisper, but only silence answered. Then the floor shifted beneath me. No, not shifted, stretched. The room seemed to elongate, walls bending as if breathing. My head spun, and I stumbled, heart hammering against my ribs like a warning drum. The shadows twisted, forming shapes that flickered just beyond focus. Faces? No, they dissolved before I could be certain. A cold sweat slicked my skin as a whisper brushed my ear, so close I could feel the breath, but when I whipped around, there was nothing. Just the flickering light and the oppressive dark pressing in. The shelves, once orderly, now groaned under impossible weights, bending in unnatural angles. Time warped, seconds dragged like hours, or maybe minutes passed in blinks. I couldn't tell. I tried to steady myself, rational thoughts clawing their way through the fog. Maybe it was exhaustion, the stress of the night. But then the radio behind the counter crackled to life, static giving way to faint voices speaking in a language I didn't understand. The words slithered into my mind, cold and invasive, and a primal terror rooted me to the spot. Suddenly, the exit disappeared. Where the door had been, there was only a wall, cracked and pulsating like flesh. Panic surged. I backed away, only to find the floor melting into darkness, swallowing my shoes. The room was no longer a room, but an endless void, pressing inward, suffocating. I swallowed hard, realizing I was trapped, alone with something unseen but undeniably present. My breath hitched as a low growl vibrated beneath the floorboards, a promise that I was not safe, that whatever lurked here was coming for me. There was no way out. My limbs feel like they're dissolving into the pulsating floor, each heartbeat a drum pounding madness into my skull. The air thickens, heavy and sour, as if the very breath I draw is laced with decay. The walls, no longer walls, ripple and fold around me, swallowing light and sound until I am nothing but a flicker caught in an endless, suffocating loop. Voices fragmented, distant, mocking, echo through the void, twisting my thoughts into knots. I try to scream, but my voice is stolen, a whisper lost in a storm of silence. Shapes emerge from the shadows, grotesque, shifting faces that leer and leer, their eyes hollow, endless pits of despair. They reach for me, not with hands, but with the weight of forgotten memories and unbearable regret. Then, a vision, or is it a memory, flares before me, a mirror cracked and smeared with something dark, reflecting a face that is mine, yet not mine. Hollow eyes stare back, devoid of hope, trapped forever in this place where time folds upon itself like a broken clock. I realize then that I am not a visitor here. I am the prisoner, bound to this endless night, a flicker in a dark machine that never stops turning. The gas station is no longer a place, but a prison of shadows and whispers, swallowing all who dare enter. Somewhere far beyond my reach, a faint light flickers. Another car, another soul drawn in by the night. And I am left to wait, a warning unspoken, a fate eternal. The silence returns, thick and suffocating. And with it, the terrible certainty, I am lost. Forever. My name is Ethan. I'm 32, a freelance photographer who's always chasing the perfect shot. Tonight, I found myself driving along a forgotten highway, my gas tank dangerously close to empty. That's when I spotted it. An old gas station, abandoned, its flickering neon sign barely clinging to life in the thick darkness. I pulled over, hoping to find a working pump or at least a phone to call for help. The air was cold, sharp with the scent of damp earth and rusted metal. The only sound was the distant hum of the wind threading through broken glass and cracked concrete. The parking lot was littered with dead leaves and forgotten debris, shadows stretching unnaturally under the weak glow of a lone, buzzing street lamp. The silence felt heavier than it should, as if the usual nighttime chorus had been muted. As I stepped closer, I caught a faint glimmer in the cracked window, a reflection that didn't quite match my movements. For a moment, I thought I heard a soft shuffle behind the building, but when I turned, nothing stirred. My heart tightened, not from fear, but from the unsettling feeling of being watched, as if this place held secrets waiting just beyond the shadows. The cold air clings to my skin as I step closer to the cracked window, the faint neon flicker casting jagged shadows across the peeling paint. My breath forms clouds in the night, but the silence remains thick, almost suffocating. I squint at the glass, trying to make sense of the strange reflection that caught my eye moments ago. It's just my own silhouette. Or is it? A sudden scrape behind the building snaps my head around, heart pounding, but only the rustling wind greets me. Still, the hairs on my neck stand at attention. I glance down and notice a small object lying half buried beneath a pile of dry leaves. A rusted key, oddly out of place. My fingers brush it, cold and heavy, and I can't shake the feeling it's meant to be found. The silence fractures again, this time with a faint tapping, rhythmic and deliberate, coming from deeper inside the station. Tension coils in my chest as I debate ignoring it, attributing the sounds to the old structure, settling, or a stray animal. But the tapping persists, almost like a heartbeat, measured and unnerving. I shift my weight uneasily, the cracked concrete crunching beneath my boots, and notice the faint glow of a flashlight beam flickering inside, despite the power clearly being out. My rational mind scrambles for explanations. Maybe another traveler, maybe a prank, but the growing dread makes my thoughts fragment. The air feels heavier, charged with something I can't name, and the feeling of being watched intensifies. I'm no longer just an observer. I'm part of this place's story, whether I like it or not. Driven by a mix of fear and curiosity, I reach for the door handle, the cold metal biting my palm. The door creaks open slowly, revealing a dim corridor beyond. The tapping sound grows louder, pulling me in. I step inside, the darkness swallowing me whole. The door creaked open, and a cold wave of stale air rushed out, swallowing me whole. I stepped inside, the beam of my flashlight trembling as it cut through the thick darkness. The rhythmic tapping grew louder, echoing off walls that seemed to stretch and warp beneath my gaze. The floorboards beneath my feet shifted unsettlingly, as if the building itself was breathing. I forced my eyes to focus, trying to make sense of the shadows flickering at the edge of my vision. A faint whisper brushed past my ears, impossible to place. Words that twisted like smoke, slipping away before meaning could form. My heart hammered against my ribs, sweat slicking my palms as I gripped the rusty key tighter. The corridor behind me stretched endlessly, walls bending in impossible angles. The ceiling seemed to pulse with a dim, sickly light, then plunged into darkness before flickering back again, like a heartbeat skipping erratically. I stumbled forward, vertigo rising as time fractured, seconds stretched, then snapped away like shards of glass. A sudden chill clawed at my neck, and I spun around, flashlight darting wildly. Nothing. Yet the silence pressed in, thick and suffocating. Then from somewhere deeper inside, a low, guttural growl rumbled, a sound no human should make. My breath hitched, and I swallowed hard, trying to steady my trembling legs. The tapping returned, but now it was all around me, rhythmic, insistent, almost beckoning. I turned a corner and froze. There, scrawled across the cracked wall in what looked like dried blood, were words I couldn't read, twisting and shifting before my eyes. The air grew heavier, thick with a presence I couldn't see but felt pressing closer, closing in. I tried to retrace my steps, but the hallway had vanished. The exit was gone, replaced by endless darkness stretching in every direction. Panic surged, and I realized with a sinking dread, I was trapped. Something was here with me, watching, waiting, and it was coming. My breath catches, cold and ragged, as the darkness around me thickens, swallowing every shred of light or hope. The walls, if they can still be called that, pulse rhythmically, beating like a monstrous heart in the void. The whispers swell into a deafening roar, twisting inside my skull, tearing at the edges of my sanity. I'm falling, but not downward, sideways, upside down, spiraling through a maze where time fractures and slips through my fingers like smoke. Suddenly, a grotesque shape materializes before me, blurred, shifting, impossible to focus on. Its eyes, or what I imagine as eyes, burn with an ancient hunger, staring through me, into me, consuming the last fragments of my will. I try to scream, but sound is swallowed before it escapes. My limbs grow heavy, sinking into the floor that isn't floor, a surface that ripples and writhes beneath me. Panic claws at my chest, nausea twisting my insides like a vice. I see flashes, faces, memories, broken images of people lost long ago, trapped in this endless night. The realization slams into me with crushing force. I am not here by chance. I am part of this place now, a piece in an eternal nightmare, caught in a loop with no escape. Every step forward pulls me deeper into the black maw. Every breath a shiver of icy despair. The entity moves closer, its presence a suffocating weight pressing down on my soul. I am fading, dissolving into the endless dark, my name forgotten, my story erased. Outside, the neon sign flickers weakly, a dying heartbeat in the night, waiting for the next lost soul to stumble into its grasp. And then I am nothing but silence. If you've made it this far, thank you for walking with us into the heart of darkness. If these stories sent chills down your spine, don't forget to leave a like. It helps us keep bringing you echoes of the unknown. Tell us in the comments, which story disturbed you the most or left you wanting more? And of course, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because next time, it might be your story we tell.